Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I thought we could make some nut butters together, and I'm going to be making 3 different nut butters. One's going to be a mixed seed and nut butter, the next one's going to be an almond and coconut butter, and the final one is going to be a hazelnut and chocolate spread. I don't know if you've made nut butters at home before, but it's actually pretty easy. It's also more affordable, at least if you're going for things like almond butter or cashew butter that are a little bit more exclusive. And you can also mix it up a bit more and make some more interesting blends, which is what I thought we could do for this first one. I'm going to be using sunflower seeds and a mix of nuts. And the method I'll be using for this first nut butter, you can apply to any nut butter. So it's a good basic recipe, and what we're going to start with is measuring out some seeds and some nuts. So first I grab 1 cup's worth of raw sunflower seeds and I add them to a baking sheet. I'm also going to add 2 cups worth of mixed nuts. Here I'm using almonds. I'm also going to be using walnuts and cashews. But really, you could use any nuts that you like the taste of or that you have on hand. Making this nut butter is actually a fantastic way to use up odds and ends that are lying around in your cupboard. Next, I place the nuts and seeds in the oven at 175 degrees Celsius for about 10 to 15 minutes, just to toast them, and then I let them cool slightly before I pour them into my food processor. Along with the toasted nuts and seeds, I'm adding in a pinch of salt, and this is just to bring out all the flavors, but of course it also gives it a slight salty touch. Then I put my machine onto auto and I let it go for a couple of minutes, then I stop it and I scrape down the sides. It takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to reach my preferred consistency of nut butter, which is very smooth and silky. So I do this process of putting it onto auto, then stopping it and scraping down the sides a few times throughout that time. Here you can see what the nut butter looks like after about 5-6 minutes. You can see that it's still pretty grainy, so I just allow it to keep going until it is that gorgeous smooth consistency. Finally, I pour the nut butter into a clean jar, and that's how easy it is to make your own nut and seed butter at home. Like I said, it's the same process for pretty much any nut or seed butter, so feel free to mix it up. I hope you could see how silky this becomes when you blend it for that long of a time. It is really smooth and silky, and I like to keep mine in the fridge. And you can keep it in there for like a month or 2, but I'm sure you could also keep it in a cool and dark cupboard for up to a month as well. And depending on the ratio of seeds to nuts, it will become a different texture because nuts have more fats in them than seeds. So if you use more seeds, it will be less runny, I guess. It will be more dense. And also this nut butter will obviously take on whatever flavor you put in there. So if you have lots of almonds, it will taste more like almonds. If you have lots of cashews, it will taste more like cashews, or walnuts or hazelnuts or whatever you may put in there. And this nut butter is like a really good all-around nut butter, I would say. I like to have it as a topping for my breakfast bowls. It's good on toast or rice crackers with jam or banana or whatever else you want to put on there. It's also a really good base for like sauces and dressings. If you want to make a savory salad dressing, for example, it works really great in that as well. But now, before I move on to tell you a little bit more about the almond butter we're about to make, I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And if you don't know Skillshare, it's an online learning community where you can find thousands of inspiring classes covering creative topics. I use it mostly for photography and videography tips and insights, but there's lots on there. There's lots on various different types of design. There's tips on freelancing, on crafts, and even cooking. Beyond that, what's really great about Skillshare is that it's curated specifically for learning, so there are no ads, and they're always adding new classes to the platform so that you can explore new things. Sometimes I take a Skillshare class just to relax and have fun. Emily Paluska's class about papercraft flowers was a perfect example of this. It's visually beautiful, and Emily gives great insight into her craft, showing us exactly what materials she uses and how to make 3 different types of flowers. It definitely inspired me to give handmade paper floristry a go. If you would like to try out Skillshare for yourself, the first 1,000 of you to click the link in the description box will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare so that you can try out all the classes. But now let's make some almond butter. And almond butter is probably my favorite nut butter. And this particular version that we're going to make is inspired by Pip & Nut, which is a UK nut butter brand, and it has coconut in it. And the coconut makes it super rich and adds a little bit of sweetness as well. And we're going to use pretty much the same method before, but let me show you how to do it. Of course, for my almond butter, I'm using almonds. So here I have 2 cups that I spread over my baking sheet, and then I do the toasting process again. This time though, I'm doing it for 8 minutes, and then I'm going to add a 1/4 cup's worth of desiccated coconut onto the sheet as well with the almonds. I just spread them out and allow them to toast for about 1 to 2 minutes in the oven or until they turn golden, but be careful not to burn them. And once they're out of the oven, transfer them onto a plate so that they can cool gently before you add it all to your food processor. For this particular nut butter, I like to flavor it with a little bit of vanilla powder. I use about a 1/4 teaspoon, and then I also add a pinch of salt again, just to bring it all together. Then we're going to do pretty much the same process as before. We're going to whisk it on auto, wait a long time, then stop it and scrape down the sides. As you can see, this mixture is a little bit drier, so I do these a few more times, and it also takes me a little bit longer to get this to that super smooth consistency. So this blend is a little bit more towards the 15-minute mark than the 10-minute mark. Here you can see it again after about 6-7 minutes. It's starting to make this lump, and don't worry, it will come out of this state. Just keep going on auto. Once the butter is that silky consistency, again I transfer it into a clean jar, and that coconut is such a lovely touch. I really hope you will try this recipe. So for me, this takes a little bit longer to get to this silky smooth texture that I like in my nut butter, but just keep an eye on it and just keep going until it's silky smooth. And this nut butter you can use pretty much like the previous one, although I wouldn't use it in anything savory because it has a little bit of vanilla in it, but I mean, you do you, maybe you like that. Another thing I really like to make with this nut butter is stuffed dates. I think I've shown this before. It's a really easy dessert. All you do is open the date up, remove the pip, add the nut butter in, and I also like to add some nuts, like a whole almond or half a walnut, and then top with a little bit of sea salt, and you have a perfect snack or dessert. Next, we're going to make the hazelnut and chocolate spread. So I think you understand that this is a little bit of a take on Nutella, although mine is not going to be as sweet, but I'll give you options for how you can add more sweetness into it. And there are a few ways you can do this to make this kind of chocolate and hazelnut spread. You could use cocoa powder and sweeteners, which for me actually comes out a little bit more sticky and toffee-like. So I like to use melted actual chocolate in the mix instead, which I will show you in a second. But first we're going to toast the hazelnuts, and then I'm going to show you a trick for how to get the peel off easily. For this blend, I'm using 2 cups of raw hazelnuts that again I spread over my sheet and toast in the oven for about 10 minutes or until it goes golden and smells lovely. I allow it to cool only halfway this time. Then I spread a kitchen towel over my surface and pour the nuts over it. Then I rub the nuts against the kitchen towel using the palm of my hand until most of the skins come off. This is such an ingenious way of getting the skins off the nuts without spending ages. Then I just pick the nuts out away from the skins and they're ready for blending. Again, I'm going to add the obligatory pinch of salt, and I'm also flavoring this with vanilla again. Here I use a 1/4 teaspoon just like before, and then I start blending on auto. It's the same process. You're going to want to put it on auto, then sometimes stop it and scrape down the sides just to go again. With the hazelnuts, I find it takes about 8 to 10 minutes to reach a smooth consistency. While the hazelnuts whiz away, I'm going to melt some chocolate, and I'm using 70% dark chocolate here, but if you want your spread to be sweeter, you can use a lower percent of cocoa, for example, a 55%. Just make sure that the chocolate is vegan. Here I'm melting the chocolate in a bain-marie, meaning I've put a bowl over a pot of boiling water. And when it's all smooth, I pour it little by little into the food processor while it's still blending on auto, and then I leave that on as I add 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup until I reach my preferred consistency. You could use other types of liquid sweeteners here, you do you. That's the chocolate hazelnut spread all done, and it finds its way into a clean jar as well before it finds itself all over everything delicious that I can find in my kitchen. I'm sure you've had quite enough of me using the food processor now, and I have had a little mishap on my belly from the food processor as well with chocolate. So excuse my attire, but the hazelnut and chocolate spread is done. It's silky, it's smooth, it's luscious and delicious. I hope you'll want to try it. It's really good on toast, on pancakes, swirled into banana ice cream, or if you're making an ice cream sundae, it would be really nice in there. I like to keep mine in the fridge, and again, it will last in there for like up to a month. It will sit a little bit in the fridge, so it will become more firm, but you can take it out for a couple of hours if you want it to become more loose again. And that goes for the nut butters as well. They will sit a little bit in the fridge as they cool down. And when you have poured them into the jars straight from the food processor, they will be a bit warm. So I would wait a bit to let them cool down before you put them in the fridge. But that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you want to try and make some nut butters at home. I'll leave all the links to the full recipes with ingredients and method instructions in the description box as always, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care everyone, thanks for watching, bye!